My name's Carroll Shelby, and performance is my business.
When you have the name Shelby on a vehicle, it really means something.
He was a showman, he was a business guy, he was a racer, he did all these incredible things.
You're right in the middle of the Ford versus Ferrari wars. Carroll wanted a car that could beat Ferrari on the street after just beating him at Le Mans.
More power, better brakes, better suspension.
America going after Ferrari and beating them.
Little Red was the legendary ultimate Shelby.
Something special about him, or you wouldn't have nicknamed him.
He wanted it to seem like an American version of a Ferrari.
What was it? How exactly was it?
Little Red became their test bed for engineering innovation, and then it just disappeared.
The car's gone, it's destroyed, it's in pieces.
Little Red was crushed.
We should try to find Little Red just to see if it's out there.
Oh, geez, we're gonna do this conspiracy thing again.
You cannot find what cannot be found.
I gave the VIN number to a private detective.
We're off to the races.
You start answering questions, you end up with like 17,000 more.
I'm getting ready to have to change the theory on Little Red.
This ties everything together. Here's your prototype drawing. I love it because it's forensic CSI. This part to this part to this part. A lot of stuff's been written, and now it's going to get rewritten.
In 1966, the Ford Motor Company shocked the world by placing first, second, and third at Le Mans, the most prestigious auto race in the world. Ferrari had dominated the race for the past 6 years, and the man who knocked them off the podium was a chicken farmer turned race car extraordinaire, Carroll Shelby.
It was an amazing moment that signaled the end of a dynasty and the beginning of another. In fact, Carroll is the only person, and probably will be the only person in history, to win as a driver, a team owner, and a manufacturer. He was on top of the world.
My name's Carroll Shelby, and performance is my business.
It was after Le Mans that the legend of Carroll Shelby truly took off.
Carroll Shelby, a chicken farmer, an entrepreneur, race car driver, manufacturer. That was Carroll. But he made his dreams reality, and everyone around him lived vicariously through Carroll, and he was a genius in building around him incredible people.
Carroll Shelby is an American icon, an individual that I really looked up to. When everybody else said it couldn't be done, he'd just go do it.
Craig Jackson is the chairman and CEO of Barrett Jackson, a world leader in classic car auctions. His connection with Carroll runs deep.
I named my daughter after him. I have a nice picture with Carroll holding Shelby, and just really felt a real friendship. We've really been involved with Carroll for a long time and raised a lot of money over the years for charity selling Shelbys.
Craig surrounds himself with some of the most knowledgeable people in the business, including Steve Davis, the president of Barrett Jackson, Jeff Catlin, the vehicle logistics manager, and Jason Billups, the man Craig trusts with his most important restorations. They share Craig's passion for all things Shelby.
He was the guy that just pressed the envelope.
He was a showman, he was a business guy, he was a racer, he won Le Mans, he worked with Ford, did all these incredible things.
He was just one of those guys, he'd sit down and tell you, you know, like, hey, you guys, we're going to do this and everything. And everybody'd walk away like, yeah, we're going to do this. Like, we're going to go to Le Mans. We're going to kick Ferrari's ass.
Carroll was the beneficiary of mojo, also known as charisma. He was larger than life. Therefore, the cars he produced were larger than life.
2 months after his top 3 finish at Le Mans, Carroll decided he was going to develop the next generation of Mustang, a car that would be so powerful and awe-inspiring that consumers would prefer it to Ferrari.
Carroll, being the ultra competitor that he was, didn't just want to beat Enzo on the track. He wanted to rub Enzo's face into it.
That in-your-face attitude, what do you mean I can't do it? Not only can I do it, but I'm going to do it in ways that you didn't even know that it could be done.
Carroll ordered 3 Mustangs to be delivered to his Shelby American shop, a fastback, a convertible, and a notchback coupe that would eventually earn the nickname Little Red.
And of course, Little Red received the most amount of, I would call it, fun. It had more experimental pieces put on it than the other 2 combined.
Little Red became their test bed for engineering innovation.
Little Red was the legendary ultimate Shelby. If you want it to go fast, I'll make it go even faster. If you want one supercharger, screw that. I want to put two superchargers.
He wanted it to seem like an American version of a Ferrari.
They were trying to find that competitive advantage, whether it be superchargers, suspensions, carburation, different things like that. He was always experimenting.
Little Red was a prototype, an experimental car, and like all prototypes, it was pushed to its limits and beyond. Everything affecting its performance, its power, design, and styling was tested, swapped out, beefed up, and tested again.
Because that's the spirit of Shelby, and with a concept car, with an experimental car, that was the purpose. See what breaks, fix it, and make it better.
It's the spirit that that car embodies that represents that entire era of the muscle car age that spawned all the incredible cars of today, and the DNA that lived and breathed in Little Red is now to this day being shared with every car that shares that blue oval.
The testing with the superchargers and the big block and the GT500, Little Red was doing that in 1967. If it wasn't for Little Red, there's a lot of cars that never would have came to be.
If you were to take Carroll Shelby and parallel him into a car that would represent Carroll in all his flaming glory, it would be Little Red. We talk about muscle car. This is muscle car on steroids. Carroll Shelby plus Little Red equal legend.
Even though Little Red was revered, its fate was assumed to be no different than any other prototype car. Sent to the crusher.
Because if they don't meet EPA and DOT and safety, as a manufacturer, they can't sell the cars.
Now, we had always heard that the research had been done and it was absolutely 100% crushed.
The car was always significant, but it was lost. It was well known that the car had been crushed. Fred Goodell himself said that he saw it crushed.
The car was such an icon in its day, and then it just disappeared.
So again, it was a myth. It was an urban legend. It was the unicorn. It was this thing that existed in theory.
The car's gone, it's destroyed, it's in pieces, and it cannot be found. You cannot find what cannot be found.
I gave the VIN number to a private detective.
God, geez, we're gonna do this conspiracy thing again.
We'll let Jason go run around. That can't be correct.
I got a hit, which shocked me.
To find out more about how Little Red started life, go to barrett-jackson.com for more web extras.
I was going through all the paperwork, the Shelby American literature and stuff that I had. I said, you know what, we should try to find Little Red just to see if it's out there.
Now, we had talked about trying to hunt it down, trying to find it, but Jason was being really close to the vest at that time. He stayed on it.
I gave the VIN number, the Ford VIN number, to a private detective.
And at first I'm like, no, there's no way. You know, the car's gone. We'll let Jason go run around.
Jason says to me, well, what do you think about Little Red? Well, I said it was crushed. Well, I don't know, maybe not. God, geez, we're gonna do this conspiracy thing again.
I got a hit on the VIN number, which shocked me. After I got the report back from the detective on possibilities of people that it could be, I found a guy on Facebook that looked like might be a car guy. He had a photograph of himself in a car when he was probably 6 or 7 years old, and it was a Mustang Junior. He's sitting in it smiling, and I thought, well, this has got to be our guy.
I don't know who he is. Oklahoma, why would he be contacting me?
So I was looking for a particular Mustang coupe, the VIN number 133947. I could see that in '94 you owned this car. I was wondering if you still had it.
Yes, I have it. He goes, can we come see it? Maybe.
Then he was very hard to communicate with. It took 2 weeks before he allowed me to come to his place and look at it. And it was the longest 2 weeks of my life.
Okay, we're off to the races.
This is one of those rare days for a guy that loves hunting for cars.
I was very anxious to go see the car. I just had to see it.
I remember the day that we went, and I couldn't wait. Like, I didn't sleep the night before. Go out to this place in the middle of nowhere. We couldn't get there fast enough. Like, I just can't. I'm just in the car, just like holding myself back.
Whenever I got close to the car, I didn't say a word, just walked around it, was in awe.
One of those surreal moments that you think about it ahead of time. You think it's Little Red? I do definitely think it's Little Red. That's what I wanted to hear.
I went straight to the VIN numbers. It was double stamped on the right-hand side, single stamped on the left.
Everybody looked for it the wrong way. Everybody looked for it by the VIN number of Shelby America, not by the Ford VIN number.
I'll be damned. I mean, there it is. It wasn't supposed to exist anymore. It's like finding out that there was another tablet with 5 more commandments on it.
So I live in Dallas, and this is in Weatherford, Texas, and it was 45 miles from my house.
It was perfectly hidden in plain sight.
After finding the impossible, it was time to make a deal.
It's not like you can, look in the Kelly Blue Book and it's like, oh, Little Red under a tree in a field and, oh, okay, so this is what it's worth. Everything that we did was extremely fair to Terry, and he deserved to have it be fair. He was the guy that was responsible for this piece of history still existing.
He was upset that he let it deteriorate the way that it did out in that field, but I was thankful that he saved it. Don't look at it like you let it deteriorate. At least you didn't let it go to the crushers. It's still here. We can bring it back.
We're taking something that's so tangible and real and dirty, and it was visions in my head of dragging this out of the dirt onto a tow truck out of Texas and get it the hell out of there and restore it. I mean, that's just American know-how 50 years later.
There'd be a lot of people that say you didn't find it, because this is finding the holy grail of Shelby's.
I looked at Craig and I'm like, everybody's gonna say it ain't the car. And that's where the idea came up from him, and he's like, well, we should just show everybody what we're seeing.
Craig decided the best place to shut down the skeptics was at the Henry Ford Museum in Detroit.
So this is Ford Central. Taking it inside of there to unveil it, having Aaron Shelby there, having Henry Ford III there, and all the automotive experts and journalists that came out.
Craig had no idea how the crowd would react. Would they even believe him?
It's that this can't be. I had to document walking into a field, pulling it out of there, telling the story of how we found it. We surprised everybody.
Well, here it is. Pull it on up all the way, Jeff. Get it in the light up here. She's probably not as pretty as she used to be, but she's all here.
Craig's decision to show the car in its survivor state was gutsy. There were a lot of people who, again, just didn't believe that car existed. If he had gone and restored that car, it would have made it a lot harder to show it and have that credibility.
When I saw it being wheeled out, it was pretty amazing. The fact that Craig had to go on this expedition, this adventure to find the car, it's pretty special.
It speaks a lot to Craig's passion, and it speaks a lot to his love of Carroll and Shelby in general. It's neat to see his history here, that he's brought this forth and that he wants to do this right.
As a Shelby fan, I couldn't be more excited, because this is like Indiana Jones finding the Holy Grail, but it's not getting stuck in the back of a crate in the Smithsonian. And to see it out there, it helps us to remember who we are, what our roots are, and who we could be again.
That's why I'm buying a lot of these very rare cars and putting them away, because they are pieces of history that need to be kept. I'm only a caretaker of all these cars. When my time's up, they'll hopefully have a great home, and they'll stay where people can see them for generations to come.
The following day, Little Red was on display at Mustang Alley during the Woodward Dream Cruise, the largest one-day celebration of classic cars anywhere.
I never thought I'd see this car because I didn't think it existed. It was all, by all rumors, it had been crushed, but everybody lost track of this baby. So to see it now, that's really cool.
We did something different that's never been done before with Little Red. We made up these cards. We passed out probably 5,000 of these cards that day, maybe more. We wanted to get as many people crowdsourcing information.
There are many, many stories with this particular car that are yet to be found. It's a treasure.
From there, it seemed only fitting to take Little Red back home.
I'm gonna sit in it for the first time. Sitting at Ford World headquarters right now, looking at the logo up there, and this is where it was shipped back to. It came home, and I'm sitting behind the driver's seat in it.
I don't know that anybody could wipe that smile off your face right now either.
This is pretty cool.
Yeah, it's real cool.
You get a lot of days on this earth, and this is a very good one.
Next day, it's on the front page of USA Today. It was everywhere. Guess a couple people were paying attention. It was the #1 trending story. And then we launched our website, ShelbyPrototypeCoupes.com, and we started getting hits immediately. What most of the hits came from were sons or grandsons of people that worked for Ford, that worked for Shelby. One gentleman chimed in, "It's crushed. That's not it."
They needed to catch a break, and they did. A big one.
That's what I wanted to hear.
Want to find out more about how we found Little Red in the field? Go to barrett-jackson.com for more behind the scenes. We wanted to get as many people crowdsourcing information. One gentleman chimed in, "It's crushed. That's not it." A few weeks later, get a call. He actually showed the picture to his dad. His dad goes, "That's Little Red."
Oh, jeez.
We found the guy that built it through social media.
Oh.
You can still see the remnants of the vinyl top on it.
Yeah, this had a snake on here. I built this car. Everything I was told, that thing was a cube.
For Walter Nelson, seeing Little Red for the first time in 50 years was truly emotional.
Bring back memories.
You're talking about home. Carroll was a hot rodder, okay?
And did he drive it hard?
Was a wild bear running the woods? I'll guarantee you ain't gonna catch him. Because it seemed to me, if I remember right, one of the blowers set right here.
Set right there.
Accurately restoring Little Red would not have been possible if they hadn't found Walter. This photo, given to Craig by Walter, is the only known color photo of Little Red that exists anywhere. Quite an important piece of the puzzle.
Oh, you are a gold mine.
Finding Walter was a huge breakthrough. So was Ford opening up its archives, giving Craig and the team access to piece together the history of Little Red.
Here's your prototype drawing for the one that's on Little Red. I love it because it's forensic CSI. This part to this part to this part. If it was Homeland for cars, we'd have the thread going all over the place. This ties everything together. Supercharger, special rear brakes, 1969 hood latch prototypes. Those were still on the car when we found it. This was worth all the time at the archives.
Those Ford archives also gave important clues into one of the biggest mysteries surrounding Little Red. Why was it saved from the crusher?
Somebody in accounting said, "Why are we crushing all these cars? Why don't we put them back so that they're legal and sell them?" And that saved it.
The car was sent from its factory in Ionia, Michigan, to a Ford dealership in Denver, Colorado, to its first owner, Tom Gaddis.
When you went and first saw the car on the lot, did they tell you anything about it?
The only thing they knew was that EXP meant experimental. I drove the hell out of this car, every way you can do it.
After an injury brought Tom home early from Vietnam, he was looking for a special car to call his own. And it just so happened that a red Shelby in Denver caught his eye.
The car sold itself to me. It just was what I needed then. That car and I were as close as anybody can be with their car. The first time I found out that the car had a little extra, Was on the way to work one morning. All of a sudden, the car just went berserk. It just took off like it was shot out of a cannon. I shut it down when it was approaching 100 miles an hour, just in no time at all. Since then, I've realized that that car is one screaming monster. Everybody has driven something that you knew you felt better than you should being in it. And that's the way Little Red was with me. There's something in that car. There's something blessed about that car.
50 years after Tom Gaddis bought the car in Colorado, and 25 years after sitting in that Texas field, Little Red was brought to Colcord, Oklahoma to be restored. As a prototype, Little Red changed and evolved constantly. Craig's first critical decision was to pinpoint the best version of Little Red for this restoration.
How it started its life was the first EXP 500, the first experimental Shelby coupe. In the restoration, we had to pick a point in time. This is the point in time we picked to put Little Red back to.
That meant restoring its outboard headlight, black spray-on vinyl top, 10-spoke wheels, and most importantly, dual blowers under the louvered hood.
I truly believe this was its biggest and baddest self right here.
We want to restore the car as correctly as we can find. We don't want to guess at anything. We're going to make it as historically correct as we can.
Through detective work, he had to turn the myth of Little Red into evidence-based restoration. And one of the myths that Jason immediately debunked was whether Little Red ever had a manual transmission.
They would have had to punch that hole out right there for the clutch pedal. So obviously the car never had a 4-speed in it. It's always had an automatic. I want people to see the way these cars were built. And that's what our goal is at the shop, is to make it as correct as we can make it.
We're knee deep in it now.
I talk about the pyramids of Egypt. You know, what did it feel like when the first person found that incredible treasure, when they opened the door of that tomb? To me, that's what I see when I look at Little Red.
Inspected August 66.
Yep, that's definitely the original door panel.
As it slowly comes apart, each and every step tells a story or reveals a new question.
So a 67 emblem and a Mustang emblem have been on this thing. Question is, when?
That's another unique thing right there. That's actually a 68 knob on a 67 panel. So they were doing little subtle upgrades. There's a tag right here, if you can see, C4ZB part number on it. Never seen that tag like that before. That might be significant.
Every component, every nut, every washer, every dent, every ding, every piece of paper, the remnants of a decal, the remnants of a screw, a screw hole that now is missing. That's a piece of a puzzle.
The bottom of the radio says show car only.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
That's real cool. I think this was the Tom Gaddis ad. We'll ask him next time we talk to him. When did you put the Sparkomatic speaker setup in it?
Made in Japan.
One of the myths, or one of the legends, that needed to be resolved was, what was the paint color of Little Red?
It was always said that Little Red was painted in Ferrari red, and it was supposedly Carroll's way of, hey Ferrari, we just beat you last year, and now I'm gonna paint one of our cars your color.
That's the candy apple red. That's the factory color, I'm pretty sure.
I'm not sold on the Ferrari red story yet, because I'm not seeing it.
You mean you're not seeing two different colors?
Nope.
I am.
This is faded out though. When you polish it up, it looks like this.
You think so?
Mm-hmm.
Buff out here a little bit.
Okay. Does that look different than that?
Not really.
You know how we tell for sure? We sand through and see.
If there's a layer.
Mm-hmm.
See if you see two different colors.
Not.
I think it's just one?
Yep. I'm getting ready to have to change the theory on Little Red.
You're not going to believe how the original owner used Little Red. Go to barrett-jackson.com and learn all about it. There, see what we see there.
It was always said that Little Red was painted in Ferrari red.
I'm getting ready to have to change the theory on Little Red. That's going to be hard to argue with because that's forged red oxide, gray primer, and red paint.
You think that's candy apple red?
Yeah, I do.
Wow.
Yeah.
It was never painted Ferrari red. That's a myth. Well, the car tells the story. There's no two ways about it. A lot of stuff's been written, and now it's going to get rewritten.
I mean, you stop and look at a car, the biggest part of the car is the exterior. And it's got paint all over it. So it's the most important thing that you see when you first walk up on the car is the paint. And we knew it had to be right. I had to block out the fact that I was getting ready to spray Little Red. I just had to tell myself, I'm gonna paint another Mustang. I've done this 100 times, maybe 1,000 times. Just go paint this car.
We always say we never treat any of them any different, but we might have tried a little harder on this one.
Carroll Shelby was all about speed. Once a race car driver, a heart condition took him out of the driver's seat for good. In a decade full of engineering breakthroughs, his team of hot rodders at Shelby American were ready to prove themselves.
It's really a golden era, the launch of Apollo and all the technology that America was looking at. Carroll was looking at the same things, and how do you take things to the next level?
And for Shelby, what would take his cars to the next level would be the engine.
Let's take an engine and let's just blow it apart with 2 superchargers and let's see what happens.
Carroll then, and today even, the Shelby American test drivers, they're easy to just go out and see if you can break it.
In their quest for more power, they added not 1, but 2 superchargers with blowers attached. This had never been done before.
Could you put 2 blowers on a 428 and make it live? Well, the answer is no. They blew it up a few months after they did that. That mentality that they had to push the limits, to make as much power as you could make until it broke, and then go build one better. And Craig really gives that same persona that Carroll did back then.
Let's rock. My cars are not trailer queens. I take them out, I drive them. I believe if you don't drive them hard, you don't know what they drive like. And I drive cars the way I think they should be driven.
Well, you've got to hand it to him. I mean, they were made to drive.
Jason's dad, Carroll Billups, is tasked with rebuilding the legendary engine. And he's well aware of how Craig Jackson drives his vehicles.
I don't think he's got any trailer queens. He uses them.
It's so cool that I'm able to work on this stuff that I always heard about from my dad growing up.
Piece of history, isn't it? Piece of history.
I think the biggest challenge he's got right now is he knows the motor's gonna make more horsepower than the block is capable of containing. And we also know that Craig's going to push it to the limits.
Hopefully you don't blow it up or catch it on fire. So those are always 2 bad things.
It's pretty special that we can work together like that. It's always been a family affair.
It's fitting to have family rebuilding Little Red. After all, it was that way for the Shelby American crew.
The Shelby employees from the 60s, they were close-knit. They talk about it being a family.
I don't think any of us who started off that young thought it would become what it has, this legendary history.
Diana Day was Carroll Shelby's personal assistant.
He had an amazing sense of humor. It was a happy time. I don't know any of us who did not get along. We were proud of the company, but we were kids.
Every year, the Shelby American Club hosts a reunion for the original crew.
I started there in 1965.
This gathering in 2019 gave Craig the opportunity to compare notes with Ralph Mora, a veteran of the Shelby garage.
We believe it had 2 blowers on it.
It had 2 blowers on it, I can verify that.
Were they inboard like on the 2 427 Cobras?
Yeah, they were inboard.
That's you, is it?
That's me, in Ionia, Michigan.
They were teenagers and now they're in their 70s and we're losing them. It hurts me when we say that one has taken the checkered flag. I consider them family.
Now, 50 years later, it's the Billups family bringing the legend of Little Red back to life.
Whenever we light this thing up with both of these blowers on here, we're getting ready to bring back to life the most powerful vintage Shelby engine ever built.
The team is hooking the engine up to the dyno, which will allow them to test it and dial it in perfectly before putting it into Little Red.
Gotta have faith.
Like a father in the waiting room, right? It's just a car, but it's a really special car.
Craig was flying in the morning, and the team wanted to make sure everything was running smoothly before he arrived.
Craig doesn't land till 10. I would love to have an idea what it's gonna do before he comes down here.
When he gets here, we're gonna see what it does, right?
Yeah. Hear something whining. I don't know what it was. Oh, this one's smoking. But what was screaming? That's what I was wondering, if it was a bearing or something in one of the blowers.
I never heard a noise quite like that.
That blower feels hot. Like, it's hot. Yeah, look there. That's where this belt was smoking. Wow. It's got a bearing out in it. Feel it.
Oh, God. We wasn't completely locked up.
That sucks.
For more in-depth look at Little Red, go to barrett-jackson.com for more web extras.
Jason and the team worked well into the night, trying to diagnose and fix the blowers. They realized they had the blowers mounted at an angle that didn't allow the oil inside to properly lubricate the unit.
And that put that pickup like this. It was sucking air.
So it might as well not have oil in it.
Might as well not have any oil in it.
With Craig arriving any minute, they needed to get the blower on and the engine ready for testing.
Well, let's try to keep it all in one piece today. So says the guy that always puts his foot to the floor.
Yeah,
so.
I was gonna say.
The team didn't have time to retest the engine before Craig arrived. They just didn't know how it would perform. But even if everything went as planned, the real stress test would be getting Little Red on the track.
I always believe in drive them the way you were meant to be driven. But same time, I want to keep this one together, so let's be gentle on it on the dyno. Can't wait to hear it run. Let's fire it up.
Just to hear it fire for the first time, it lets you know, ooh, we got that right.
But if it makes the kind of power that we think it's going to make, it could hurt itself.
It made 594 horsepower and 640 foot-pounds of torque.
Wow.
That's enough to probably break the tires loose.
It's a beast.
I'll throw in those license plates on it. What's for lunch? Ferrari.
The raw power originally harnessed by the Shelby team 50 years ago had successfully been brought back to life. All that's left to do now is to marry this beast to this beauty.
We're in uncharted territory.
You're 6 inches from the engine mount.
The same thing that those guys were doing back then is what we're doing today. We're just trying to make everything fit because there's no pattern for this. This has not been done before.
Twist it a little. There. What's it hitting on?
Well, worried we're going to get in a bind. I mean, it really fits tight, especially over here because of the gearbox.
The bottom of the header needs to swing towards the middle of the car.
Can't till we clear. We got to go up in the back before we can do that.
The header's still against the tunnel. Can you see it, Jason?
Yeah, you're close. You're close.
It just moved. Crap. There, right there.
There you go.
We're lined up.
Bringing it back here and getting it in the car with Craig here was a big moment.
It lives here now.
Pretty special. It's going to make tons of power.
It's going to be Mr. Toad's wild ride on those tires.
You want to set in and start it?
Sure. Got a fire extinguisher just in case?
Yeah, there's one.
Okay. Fire in the hole.
To hear it fire up the first time, it was emotional. Being able to see my dad across the fender, smiling, knowing that he'd done that, that's pretty powerful. I was thinking as he was looking at that, there's a verse in Ecclesiastes that says to enjoy the fruits of your labor. And it says it's a gift from God. Today was a gift. To be able to be a part of that and to see all of that, it really was a gift. It was a great moment. We just brought it back to life.
Good job.
Thanks for letting us work on it. That was monumental right there. We resurrected a legend. Pretty great day.
Getting Little Red running again with the same configuration Carroll Shelby had was a huge achievement. Craig and his team were now ready to show off this piece of history to the world. For 50 years, Barrett-Jackson has hosted the world's greatest collector car auctions. This is where the most sought-after, unique, and valuable automobiles cross the block. This is where memories are made. Some of the most memorable moments involved Carroll Shelby selling his personal collection of cars.
He was an institution at the auction for many years. We sold many charity cars and raised a lot of money over the years for charity selling Shelbys.
It was fitting that the Scottsdale auction in January of 2020 would be the perfect place to reveal Little Red to the automotive world.
You could tell it was a very special day. You could just feel Craig's anticipation, and you could see the media start pouring in. You could tell there was something special happening at Scottsdale. To be able to be there the day that Little Red came back to life, you're going to remember that.
The enthusiasm around what Craig's been doing and what the team here's been doing is fun to see. The enthusiasm I know from the Shelby clubs have been there. We had a lot of Shelby enthusiasts in the crowd today.
Also in the crowd was Walter Nelson, the mechanic who originally built Little Red in the late 60s at Shelby American.
Oh, jeez.
He never thought he'd see Little Red again, and now he's about to see it fully restored in a way that honors his work and the spirit of Shelby.
To sit beside Walter, the fact that he built it the first time and we just built it again, that we were able to share that moment together, that was pretty cool.
The story of Little Red is quite interesting. We found the car in North Texas.
It's like Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, you know? I mean, it starts out as a beat-up old car. They pull it out of the dirt and they restore it, and it's this glamour car.
When we took it apart was really amazing because the car talked to us.
The red car that was mythical is now in Scottsdale.
It's my honor to have these cars and to restore them and to share them with everybody. This is Little Red. Jason?
When they pulled the cover off, it exceeded any of my wildest dreams.
This is his Ferrari killer.
Lightning struck me right between the eyes. It was absolutely just one of those almost out-of-body experiences. Seriously.
I felt Carroll standing there.
The builders of Little Red. What do you think of it?
It's nice. It's nice. Home. It was just like getting home.
I think the best moment was having Walter at the unveil of Little Red and getting him sitting in it again.
They did a fine job. They did a fine job. There's no doubt about that at all.
That was very rewarding. And having Aaron Shelby there to help share this moment, all the people from Ford, all the people that had helped us, it was just sort of that, man, it was a cool moment.
Revealing Little Red to the world was a monumental day, but the real test would be Craig getting it out on the track and not blowing it up the same way Carroll did.
Walter was the man who built Little Red. Boy, does he have some untold stories that you're going to want to hear. Go to barrett-jackson.com.
So we're out at Apex, and today we're going to see what Little Red will really do. You're excited, you don't want to blow it up, but you want to know what it was like back in the day. More than impressed. When I clicked it up into second, it kept going. When I clicked it up into third, it kept going. And I could have kept going. It's a lot you're thinking about. Once the wheel starts spinning, don't let the tack go too far. Modulate it, remember to shift, keep it going straight, and glance down at your gauges and make sure everything's okay. Little Red is amazingly fast. Taking him around the track was a lot of fun. This car was really pushing the envelope, making, 600 plus horsepower. I think it was very much exactly the way it was when Carroll first drove it as EXP 500.
He made a couple of comments about how happy he was to be the one that was able to bring that car back to the public.
You get a lot of days on this earth, and this is a very good one. It was a car that I didn't think I'd ever own or we'd ever find. It's been a group effort.
Team that Craig has assembled, they didn't see a car and say, oh my gosh. They said, this is something we can do.
For the Billups family to be able to be part of the Barrett-Jackson family, the Shelby family, to have our name cemented with those two families because of this car is a pretty proud moment.
This is part of the DNA of today's cars.
Little Red is so key because it showed a spirit of innovation. It showed cutting edge technology. They were thinking ahead, trying to find new ways to push the envelope.
So many cool things being tested that was just groundbreaking. Those are the things that make it neat. And anytime you can take somebody like Carroll, that was an icon, and bringing this history back to the public to let them know how important they really were.
It just amazes me the gravity of his legacy and how his legacy's been able to evolve like that.
This is a passion for me, but it's also a time capsule that we've restored them as accurate as possible.
Some things are very spiritual. I think Little Red has a spirit. To sit there in the dirt for 20 years and not get picked up by a tornado.
If you were to take Carroll Shelby and parallel him into a car that would represent Carroll in all his flaming glory, it would be Little Red. Carroll Shelby plus Little Red equal legend.
He'd be really honored to know that this type of passion and this type of work's been put into this project to make sure that it's accurate, make sure the details are correct, and that the story's told correctly.
I think Carroll would be proud. I'd have taken him out and smoked the tires with him.